Hello, world, and welcome to Bunker TV. What is the topic? My name is Skip, the faux show bonder, and to my left, as always, it is Gary. We know him as the long-haired wonder, but to my right, the man running the switches, it's Channing Glidewell, and we are thankful for you and your time. Welcome to the Bunker.
Welcome to
It's Bunker time.
TV.
Yes!
Here we are.
Did something just happen?
No.
I thought you were cheering like something fantastic happened.
It is. Well, we started.
The
Are
episode
you
started.
tagging people still?
Yes, I am.
Okay. We can wait.
You're it.
No, I'm good.
Tag it. I want to wave at people. What's that? Or poke or wave? What is it
It's a
like?
wave.
if
It's the
you-
poke. Remember the poke?
But it's a wave. If you get a new friend request, it says you
is
can
it?
wave at them. Yeah. Poking has always been weird for me on social media. Like, you know,
Can you still poke people?
you can, didn't we discuss this the other day? I got poked.
I went to look and
I got
I didn't
poked.
see it.
Yes.
You guys talk about the weirdest things.
You can still get poked on Facebook. And it's a little weird when someone pokes you because I've yet to figure out.
So, say,
I think
okay,
it's
so here's
always
Dad.
a little weird when
Here's
somebody...
Dad and wave.
Look at that. You just waved.
I just waved.
But
at
you
my dad.
didn't poke him.
No.
How do you poke?
See, I think
There's
there
no
is
poke.
poke etiquette.
No,
I think
there is no poke.
there
do not
is.
poke.
Well, okay, so that's
poke
the
etiquette.
etiquette. Okay.
Wait, if you go to the Aloha poke, then you're going to get like a bowl of poke.
Isn't that Pocky?
Poke.
Poke. What? I thought it was poke.
Pokey.
It's poke. P-O-K-E. Poke.
Pocky?
Poke.
Poke?
Yeah.
You put your
chopped
you
up-
have to put
chopped
your
up
right
meat.
hand in, and then
You shake it all about.
Yeah. And you do
do
the
the
hockey pocky? The hoke poke?
yes,
We do the hoke poke
Yes.
and we turn what?
turn it all about.
I'm just saying. I don't see.
I'm telling you.
So I don't know. How do I?
Where
Oh,
you-
here we go. We're gonna go to.
You gotta. Oh, we're looking at how to. Oh, okay.
What?
I'm trying to find somebody to poke.
Okay, go you I don't know how you poke somebody. Can somebody help us out here? How do you poke somebody on social media? I mean, I don't know who's watching, but I'm sure we've got some pokers.
We've got.
What?
It's not playing poker. It's
Right, pokers.
yeah, pokers.
Pokers, like a fire poker. They don't play
Exactly.
cards. They start ashes.
What?
I poked your face.
What?
Sorry. Anyway. Oh.
This,
Do it again. Poke my Facebook.
Wow.
Anyway,
absolutely.
That's how
hilarious.
today's been.
yeah, it's been
That's absolutely funny.
yeah. Go figure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, Dad.
Hey, what's up? All right. So, welcome to Bunker TV, episode 44. 44.
44.
44.
44.
44.
If it's a size, it's big.
If it's a size, it's big.
44 is big.
What?
If it's your waist size,
That's not big.
Discrimination.
44,
That's not big.
I
bro.
don't think we can
That's
say
not
this.
big.
Okay.
That's not big.
We're gonna get
I
canceled
think if
if
your
we're talking
neck
about
size, what?
we're gonna get canceled if
I
we
think
talk
my
about that.
jacket size is a 44.
Oh.
44 is a good size.
So what you saying
Wait,
about?
hold on.
So what you saying?
I know.
My size is a 40.
What are you saying?
I'm saying you've got.
I mean, what if your beard was 44 inches long?
That's what I'm saying. It's big.
No, it's not. It's
That's
awesome.
big. Yeah, it's big.
No.
Like, yay, big.
Oh my goodness. Why'd you let him do that?
What? He's abstaining.
I'm just pushing the button.
He's
He's
just-
just pushing.
He's just
Here, look.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing, Lewis? We need to get you back on here, man. I'm gonna feature you next episode. We're gonna run back one of your videos. LS3. You guys check him out on Facebook. If there's a better way to find you, Lewis, let me know. LS3 on Facebook. I believe that you're actually, I know you're on YouTube as well. Are you LS3 Music? I think possibly. Hold on, Channing's looking it up right now. We're going to give you the mad shout out.
the mad on the switches.
All right, let's see. All right. Or we can let him answer the question, Channing. There we go. Donkey is a 50.
Yeah, what you saying, Gary?
Awesome, donkey.
There you go.
she's saying,
See,
Gary.
see, 44 is not big. 50 is not big.
No,
Donkey.
44
Donkey's on the
is
way
big.
down. Donkey's on the way down.
44 is big for episodes.
44 is big for episodes. Yes, yes. We'll give you that. So,
Good.
all right. So, thanks you guys for rocking with us as always. As you can tell, we do not pre-discuss any of the topics, anything
Nothing that we say.
that are brought up on the bunker. And so each of these fine young gentlemen have prepared and brought a topic into the bunker. Bunker being defined as a place during times of war, a safe place, an underground place for storage, a place to go when the bombs are flying, basically.
Exactly. Yep.
And so the hope was that we would create a place where we could assemble a panel of people. And initially it was talk about tough topics. We're past that because I think that was a misnomer. We want to talk about the things that everyone should be talking about, but we're just not encouraged to discuss them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We're just not encouraged to discuss them. And so hopefully the bunker is an encouragement to you to go and discuss the things that maybe challenge a perspective,
Right.
And there are people probably in your sphere of influence that are struggling with some of the things that we talk about, and this may give you an opportunity, a catalyst or a springboard to be bold to have that discussion.
Springboard.
You like that?
I did.
Yeah, or a platform. Both diving references, of course, but depending on what you need. Sometimes we just need a platform. Sometimes we need a little springboard, and sometimes we need a push to get us off. So whatever that is, maybe somebody just got to push you. So belly flop or dive, one way or the other, you're hitting the water.
So we went to Just Jump.
Yeah.
Oh.
My kid's up on the little thing that goes over the big airbag.
Oh.
And
Okay.
she's proficient. Like, she goes up there, no care in the world, just jumping.
Okay.
She gets up there and paused for like a moment. Like, she was letting some other kid get out of the way. And from behind her, this little boy just goes, "Goosh," and just shoves her off. She shot him the little, the side eye, of course.
Right.
And I wasn't going to she's fine all in all. But she was like, that little boy pushed me. But maybe she needed it. Maybe she was going to be scared. We don't know.
I don't know. We will never know. Maybe. There we go. LS3 Music on YouTube.
Oh, wait.
And but it is LS3 the artist on all social media platforms. So LS3 the artist.
The artist.
Yep, there you go. I love it. And all right, Gary, did you bring a topic this week?
I did. I'm just trying
Awesome.
to read that.
So
Okay, I got
so
it.
before, just let's go back because this goes back pre-Gary. So pre-Gary,
Okay.
one of the things that we wanted to do was feature a independent. Jody just poked me.
Yes!
That's awesome.
I just got a notification I've been poked.
That is awesome.
I need to look up the what did I say? The rules for poking? The
Poking etiquette.
poking etiquette. Yeah, we're gonna look
Poking
that up.
etiquette.
Is it the
But
pedicate?
so what we did was we featured an independent music artist
All right.
with a video at the end of the broadcast.
Oh, okay.
And we need to get back to doing that. So we're gonna do that.
Okay.
And we will feature you next week, Lewis. I'm gonna dig through YouTube and we're gonna find a video and we're gonna pull it down and we are gonna play it if you give us permission. Nah, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna do it regardless. No, I'm just kidding. We won't do it without your expressed written permission.
Written.
So
I gotta make a form.
I got you. Oh, everybody
What?
got poked.
Yay!
Everybody got poked.
I'm not
so
poked.
There you go. Gary's like, where do I see if I got poked?
I don't get it.
There you go. All right. So, Channing, but what is the other definition of bunker? Because early on, that was like your go-to.
So you hit it right. You said it was a fortified location in times of war for people to come and be safe. And right when bombs are flying, that's obviously preservation of life is key. But you need supplies, you need fuel, you need food, you need things to keep you alive. So that's we made this place to be that bunker to get away from the bombs because they are happening. And if we're not realizing they're happening, that'd probably be step one.
Right.
But come in here, get away from the bombs, and then have the fuel, have the supplies to be able to load up, but don't just stay there. I mean, that's something that we've all seen anyway. No movie reference. But if we just sat here and ate our own supply, we'd get fat.
Right.
You know, it's something that you don't walk up to somebody huge and like, oh, you're going to start working out tomorrow? No, you know they are already. But that's something that coming into the bunker, having the supplies, and then going out and using them would be key. And that's what we want to do here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Gary, there was a third definition of bunker that you connected with also. What was that? I'm just kidding. There was only two. There was only
I've
two.
like slept since
Channing
then. I'm like,
Channing is like,
racking my
what?
brain.
I'm like,
What
what?
just
I'm like, what
happened?
is going
just
on here?
happened?
I'm just trying to.
Yeah. So, are you guys ready to show down? We're gonna jump into this, or we're gonna?
Oh, I'm ready.
We're gonna do housekeeping in between topics tonight.
That always works well. Let's do it.
Okay, great. So,
Okay.
we always determine who goes first with a gentleman's game of rock, paper, scissors. And are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's see what you got. Are you gonna warm up at all?
No. Psh.
Okay, here we go. All right, rock, paper, scissors, throw. Channing is whooping.
What?
Whooping the guru. Wow. Wow.
I got nothing.
Okay, cool.
Gotta have the. Sorry.
You go
Nice,
first.
nicely done, Gary. Had to do that. It's not a gentleman's game if you don't have a little golf clap mixed in.
That's right. That's right. Okay. All right, jump on in there, man.
So, first time I ever spoke.
First time you ever spoke.
Not spoke like like baby,
Okay, right.
but like every time. The first time I ever actually just went to the Word, and I was going to be basically preparing and presenting the Word of God in front of other people.
right.
Acts 5
Okay.
is where I ended up.
You've been in Acts 2 days in a row. You hit me
Yeah.
with Acts 19:19 last
Right.
night. Okay, go ahead. Acts 5.
I was in Hosea today. Gary and I were talking about that before you got here.
Indeed.
But so Acts 5 talks about Ananias and Sapphira, but we're not going to go there today. We're actually going to go to Acts 4.
Okay.
I already wrote Acts 5.
Because, well, you can. We're going to get there. So just great thing about digital notes is you could just move that.
Oh, the pen.
I got a pen right here, Gary. You want one?
No. I'm good.
But Acts 4, starting in verse 32, and the header on this is believers sharing. And I just think it's actually kind of not amusing, but a perfect timing right before Ananias and Sapphira. But in verse 32, it says, "Now the large group of those who believed were of one heart and one mind, and no one said that any of his possessions was his own, but instead they held everything in common. And the apostles were giving testimony with great power to the resurrection of the Lord Jesus, and great grace was on all of them. For there was not a needy person among them, because all those who owned lands or houses sold them, brought the proceeds, and they were sold, and they were laid at the apostles' feet, and then it was distributed for each person's basic needs."
Community.
Community, believers sharing.
Yeah.
And we talked about this in our today's society, how weird that would be perceived. But you flip right over, and we talked about that last night at the gathering of page break.
Right.
We've got to the end.
We got to the end of the chapter.
It's like, I don't need to keep going.
Next week at the Bible study on Acts, we will be leaving Acts 4 and we'll be journeying into the next revelation found in Acts 5.
Acts 5.
Make sure you're here next week after you've forgotten the entire...
Forgotten everything.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So then you start reading, right? But, first of all, Acts 5 starts with a but, a therefore.
We got to go back.
Yeah,
We've gotta go back.
But what's it there for?
Right.
But a man named Ananias. So we've also said this, but is a giant eraser.
Right.
So they've just talked about a beautiful picture of Christians sharing,
Right.
no one having need,
Right.
and just providing basic needs and taking care of one another. But
Okay.
big eraser. But a man named Ananias and his wife Sapphira sold a piece of property. However, he kept back a part of the proceeds with his wife's knowledge. I was reading a different translation earlier. That's weird. And brought a portion of it and laid it in the apostles' feet. So he's almost doing exactly what everybody else did, but the small little caveat of, I'm
holding some
keep
back.
a little bit back.
Little ends for me.
Then
Me and my
Peter
wife.
said, Ananias, why has Satan filled your heart to lie to the Holy Spirit and keep back of the proceeds from the field? At that moment, you know you messed up. Like, straight just called out. Obviously, God speaking through Peter and just
Sure.
calling out, Satan filled your heart.
But don't you think Peter should have chosen a better moment in time?
Well, like pulled him aside or maybe had coffee with him.
Yeah, maybe he should have waited a little bit because in
coffee.
the emotion of that experience,
Gone to Hebrews.
Ananias was probably not emotionally prepared to take that type of rebuke because there were probably people around and
You
He
get
wasn't a snowflake.
I don't know. Okay, go ahead.
Or
Sorry.
anybody something like okay. Anyway, we want to start. We don't want to go there. But wasn't it yours while you possessed it, and after it was sold, wasn't it at your disposal? Why is it that you planned this thing in your heart? You have not lied to men, but to God. And when he heard these words, Ananias dropped dead, and great fear came on all who heard. The young man got up, wrapped up his body, carried him out, and buried him. So, God strikes him dead. But how long later? How much later does it say?
It has to be.
There was an interval about 3 hours. Then his wife came in, not knowing what had happened.
Just be bopping on in. Hey.
Tell me, Peter asked her, did you sell the field for this price? Yes, she asked, for that price. Peter said to her, why did you agree to test the Spirit of the Lord? Look, at the feet of those who have buried your husband are at the door, and they will carry you out. Instantly, she dropped dead at his feet. When the young man came in, they found her dead, carried her out, and buried her beside her husband. For then great fear came into the whole church and all who heard these things. I think it's so weird when we read Acts 4 to see believers sharing because we don't connect with Acts 5. The severity of our consequences, it was paid. Right? God, basically, you said you lied to me. He got struck dead for that sin.
Okay.
And because that sin has been paid, and because we're not under the wrath of God, we don't directly see that. And so, I mean, we've said it before, the credit card mentality, right? We know that that payment is due later, so we don't worry about it. Mm-hmm. But that's something that it was in their heart to deceive and to try and keep some of this. But right here, I mean, the whole church, great fear came into the whole church and all who heard these things because of the realization of the power of God, of basically saying, this is not something I accept. This is not something I deem worthy, and it should not happen. But we can kind of cuddle up to the sin,
right?
Because we don't see how grotesque that it is.
Well, one thing to keep in mind, we discussed this a little bit last night when we were gathering. How long had the church at Acts been acting this way? See, this is kind of new to them, right? Mm-hmm. This teaching and understanding of looking out for your neighbor and making sure your neighbor had everything that they needed and all those things, right?
Okay, yeah.
This could be fresh to them. You see what I'm saying? Right. So it's not like this is a long, traditionally, historically regulated, this is giving an account of what the church, the first century church, was doing in response to coming into the faith.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that the first century church here in Acts is they're still finding out how to be
the church.
The church.
They're on the journey.
Well, they haven't stopped believing. It's just that they're.
Wow. But do you understand? Because that becomes important,
right?
Because this isn't. They're not trying to. They're not fulfilling a 40-year tradition. So to speak.
Well, right, because I mean, just in 4 and 32, it's talking about how they were selling their homes, and that Ananias and Sapphira had just sold their homes. So this was something that maybe they had even just kind of hopped onto.
Well, and the one thing that you have to understand in context, and this is one of the things that you and I discuss all the time, is what do we have what we have for? Do I have the things that I have for myself?
Right.
Or do I have the things that I have for the benefit of other people? And then ultimately, do I toil and work to pay for the things that are all mine? And so what the statement that was being made in Acts 4 is, all up to this point, people had labored and toiled to acquire things for themselves. And they realized that there was an importance in making sure that everyone within the body was provided for, everyone within the faith was provided for, to the point that they were willing to sell and depart from all of the possessions, the worldly possessions that they had, so that in community and unity, for the sake of the gospel, for the sake of sharing the gospel with the rest of the world, all the needs were met of everyone in the community. Because if you could imagine, if there was someone within the faith that was struggling to figure out, I'm hungry, how am I going to feed my family?
Right.
They're going to be less likely to be out ministering and sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Okay.
And so by this act of selflessness, they leveled the field.
But see, I think that it started back when they were still under slavery before Moses had brought them out of Egypt. And then I would think that their mentality would be that they need to get possessions. They need to, because they didn't have anything. They were slaves. And so when they left, their mentality was, okay, now I need to acquire possessions. I need to have things. And now they come full circle into, now let's take care of everybody in the community.
And you know how difficult it is. I mean, you sit down at a table with someone who has something different. I'm not going to say even something more, but let's say they have something different than you do. Even if you really don't even need that thing that they're talking about having, you want it.
Ooh, that's cool.
Ooh,
Right.
It's shiny.
Right. But the reality is, because that person has one, I don't need one. Right?
Right.
Because that person has one, I don't need one. If we adopt the mindset of the first century church,
Yeah. Hey, can I borrow that for 2 seconds?
right? Hey, all this stuff that I have,
For 2
if you need it, it's yours.
Right. No, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you could imagine the efficiency and the benefit of community, because community is cheap. Like, it is much cheaper to provide a singular or even a multiple need to a community versus each person within a group getting it for themselves.
Right.
I mean, I went and bought a 5-gallon jug of water today, right? That one 5-gallon jug was cheaper than 5 1-gallon jugs. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so if I can go purchase a 5-gallon jug that 12 people can share, then that is cheaper than 12 people all going and purchasing their own.
Right.
But it requires us to be willing to lay down those things that we have for the benefit of other people.
Right.
Absolutely.
Good.
Channing, what else you got?
I like that Peter asked the question of, why has Satan filled your heart to lie to the Holy Spirit and keep back a part of the proceeds from the field? Right. We looked at Judas and how Satan entered him.
Right.
Why has Satan filled your heart to lie? Just, I mean, this is something definitely me at however old I was when I read this and was sitting there shaking, reading out of the ESV, talking to people, like, did not catch that at all. But that's something that, you know, God showed that to us.
I was just having a discussion today with someone. We can read everything that the devil's ever done in the Bible and we don't remember any of it. Right? I mean, if you'd have asked me, did the devil enter into Judas at the last side? I'd be like, no. But it's there. If you would you have believed if I told you that the text said that God had entered into Ananias' heart, or planted words into Ananias' heart, or planted into Ananias' heart? We'd be like, no. Right? And it's interesting that we let Satan off the hook all the time. And then what happens is, when something goes down, we immediately blame God for all that has happened.
Right. And ask God why. Why do you allow this to happen?
Well, and even on the flip side, because when we're either blaming God or we're blaming Satan, and it's always like far too much.
We never blame Satan.
I remember we were getting ready for like a mission, like a day mission trip. And we were going to go prepare a meal for a community that was just in need, and the mustard fell off the kitchen table. like while we were getting all ready and we're like loading it into the
Oh,
van.
Satan, get out of the room.
And this lady was like bent. Like that ruined her day. We had not seen a soul. We hadn't hugged a neck. We were just getting the food in the truck. And she was like, oh, Satan's hitting us hard. I was like, the mayonnaise just fell. Or the
Right.
mustard, or whatever, whatever it was. Like
Right.
they are going to be pleased if mayonnaise or mustard isn't there.
Right.
I promise.
Right.
But we can, it's always the far end of the spectrum of we always blame something else that isn't us.
Well, and the reality is too, we see stealing, killing, and destroying, and we never assign it to the person who, or the thing that comes to steal, kill, and destroy.
John 10:10.
Right? So like we know who comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but when we see stealing, killing, and destroying, we go, God, why'd you do this?
Yeah,
Why would a loving God, right?
Right.
exactly.
And that you even mentioned that at the gathering yesterday of just basically saying like why would somebody asked you the question of why would a loving God allow us to go to hell?
Right.
And that's something like for me, like that was a hard question.
Right.
Like I racked my brain with that just because I didn't really connect with the fact that it is my choice, that I was born and I was wicked. Past tense.
Because you inherited it.
100%.
Right.
I was born into flesh.
Your
and-
inheritance was wretched.
And then
Yep.
because of that sacrifice and that open invitation offering of here is life and a life abundantly
Right.
that I can freely accept.
Right.
But we stop there. We don't ever think about, well, I can also freely reject that and then cause
Absolutely.
my own consequence and demise.
By rejecting it, I just stay where I am.
Yep. But once again, it's but God, why?
Right. I remember when I was a kid, my mom shared this joke with me, and it was a man. It was raining really bad, and it breached the dam, and the land began to flood, and the man was on his porch of his house, and a boat came by, and said, "Come get in the boat, and I'll take you to safety." He says, "No, my Lord will carry me through." He said, "Okay." So he goes on by, and the waters rise, and the man ends up on his roof of his house. And a boat comes by, and he's paddling by, and the man says, "Come get in the boat. I'll take you to safety." And the guy says, "No, the Lord will carry me through." A few hours later, he's standing on the top of his chimney, and a helicopter comes by. "We'll drop you a rope. We'll take you to safety." And he says, "No, the Lord will carry me through." Waters rise, the man drowns. So he gets to heaven, and he stands before God, and God's kind of perplexed and says, "You weren't supposed to be here for another 25 years. He said, "Well, I got a problem I got to talk to you about." I was on my porch.
I got a problem.
A guy came by, and I said, "The Lord's going to carry me through." And, then I was on the roof, and a guy came by, and here I am. And God says, "Well, I sent you 2 boats and a helicopter."
Mm-hmm.
And we just because it's not packaged how we want it packaged.
Right.
In the miraculous.
Well, and even
Maybe even in the miraculous, right?
and even that question in the comments of why do we blame God though? But we don't look at that own personal responsibility.
Right.
That's something that God's made this way, so make it. We almost need the audible voice or like this big just star in the sky to need to visually follow, and God's just sitting there knocking at your heart.
Right.
Hey,
Yep.
get on that boat. Don't drown.
I've always shared the story as it relates to when I was a kid, I didn't drive the best, right? Right.
Relatable.
I didn't drive the best. I didn't drive the best, and I inevitably, I put new carpeting in the local, police station. I probably paid for some painting, some wallpaper, training desks. I mean, I probably furnished the place pretty well, right?
Right.
And so could I have blamed my parents because they gave me a car? Right?
No.
I never
think so.
I never went home after getting a ticket and saying, "Mom, this is your fault because you gave me that truck." If you hadn't given me that truck, Mom, this would have never happened. And so, God has laid so many things before us, but he's asked us to be responsible and obedient.
Right.
Yes.
And then if we act out irresponsibly and disobedient,
Yes.
and then things happen, because God isn't haphazard in the sense that he gave us all these things without an understanding of how to utilize those things. It would have been foolish for my parents to give me a truck without instructing me to obey the laws of the land. which they did.
Right.
Here you go.
Here's the keys, but I'm giving you the keys, and you have to understand there's a responsibility in this.
Right.
You need to observe the law. You
Right.
need to pay attention to the people around you,
Right.
all these different things, right? And God does the exact same thing.
Right.
He says, here are all the things before you. Here are all the great things of knowing me and being a follower of mine and all of these things. But you have to understand the tenets of the world in which you live.
Yes.
In as much as I desire for us to be back in the garden, right? For a time, we are still in the world in which we are, and you have to act accordingly to it, but you're not of it. You're just in it.
Yeah.
And be prepared to know that I've overcome all this.
Right.
So live your life above it, and don't become ensnared by the wiles of the devil.
Right.
And then what happens is we do something dumb because the devil heckles us and tricks us and gets in our ear, and we do something where we take a step and we follow the devil, and then something bad happens, and then we look at God and we say, God, where were you?
Yeah.
And God said, inside the hedges. You left the hedges. Inside my hedge is protection.
So your property,
My property.
the edge,
The edge.
The edge.
we were throwing some discs.
Yes.
And it's very nice because you've got this little stump, and we were just kind of throwing the little disc towards that stump.
Yep.
And it was a blast.
Yep.
Well, I got a genius idea. I was like, I'm going to see how far I can do it.
Good for you.
And you watch this.
Yes.
And it rolled over,
Yeah.
and it went the wrong way.
Yeah.
How painful was it going on the other side of the unmanicured?
It is horrible.
Because there's thorns.
Look, I have a thorn over here on the side of my hand that has been bugging me all day today. Look at my legs, bro. Look at this. Hold on. Hold on.
What?
I
What?
wasn't going to
Really?
talk about this. Look at all these things
Yeah.
on my legs. Look. I got all eat up because I had to go look for this disc that I chunked in the woods.
We both did it, but I was throwing myself under the bus. But
It's horrible.
right, just imagine, right? So we just first of all, when I knew I was hurling that disc,
If you would have yelled at me, Skip, look at all these things all over my leg because you gave me this wonderful place to throw my disc.
It's your fault.
If you had never given me this wonderful place to throw this disc,
Right.
I would have not ended up in the woods.
Yeah.
Skip, the fact that I'm in the woods right now is all your fault.
You took me to go buy this disc.
Why have you forsaken me, Skip? Right?
right, it's just as foolish.
It's just as foolish.
Just as foolish.
Or how even more foolish is it to go and to build a castle where the waves crash at the beach? And then when the wave comes and like washes away your sandcastle,
Like,
you
God.
like thrust your hand up to God, and you're like, "Why did you destroy my castle?" You know what I'm saying?
I used to get into moats.
But there's so many things in the world that we know lead to destruction.
yes.
And yet we still build our houses inside of those areas that lead to destruction.
Yes.
And then when the house in which we dwell gets destroyed, we shake our indignant fist at God. Why have you done this, God?
All right, and we put that back in our hands. Right, we disconnect from God,
Right.
and then I'm gonna build this.
Right.
I, just like Ananias here, I'm gonna keep some of these proceeds for myself.
Right.
I'm gonna self-benefit, and he knew all the while that they were bringing and laying it at the apostles' feet for the basic necessity of everybody.
Right.
But we do that in our own.
So,
every
so
part
he
of
had
our lives.
elevated himself above anybody else in the community at that time.
Above God.
Said, you know what? I need some of this money.
That's right. My choice is better than God's choice. And then outside of the hedge,
Yep.
all bets are off. Outside the edge.
Yep.
There's thorns.
Ticks.
Ticks. Totally non-related to what we're talking about,
Okay.
except for talking about the property.
Okay.
What is one thing that we found at the property when we were cleaning up and cleaning out things? What was one thing that we saw that was a bit terrifying at times? There was
Tarantula.
I mean, was it this? I wasn't terrifying with that big old spider.
those ginormous spiders. Remember those? I mean, those
They
were
had the really long legs that buried themselves.
they were like this big spiders. Okay,
Come on. This
Channing.
big?
Channing.
They're big.
Channing. And we were cleaning out an area and we were throwing stuff in the dumpster and they were running down the sides of the dumpsters. And yeah.
Tarantulas?
No, the one on the left over here,
This
Channing.
guy?
That's what it looked like right there. And so actually no, it's not. It wasn't that one either. Channing's looking on to try to find a picture of one of these guys. But so today we're driving in the bus and
Guy right there.
that's it. That's
No
it.
way.
Yeah, that's it. Yep. And so the transmission's been slipping in between third and fourth gear, and we're driving down the road in the bus, and I've got the mechanic in the bus with me because he drove it and couldn't get it to do it.
Okay.
And so I drove it, and it did it immediately. So I was like, "Get in the bus, you're coming with me." And so I'm driving down East Avenue today in the bus, and the guy goes, "Bro, that's the biggest spider." What? And it's literally right here beside my head on the side of the bus. I have the side window open of the bus, and apparently this spider figured it out. This spider's like, I'm gonna die if I stay in this bus. And
I've got to get out of this bus.
he proceeds to, you're gonna launch it, Channing. This may not be good for some people.
If you don't like spiders,
yeah, turn away.
close your eyes for 5
Close your
seconds.
eyes. Close your eyes. This guy.
This guy.
These guys, because there were a lot of them when we were cleaning up the property initially. They were
For real.
massive.
Like, not that big,
And they
but
literally,
close.
like Channing would say, they would lay down in the sand and they would fluff their arms and they would cover themselves in sand. It was the craziest thing. So he starts to go out the bus window, and I kind of go to like flick him out the window. He doesn't go out the window. He climbs up in the track of the window.
Gotcha.
I'm like, shuts the window. And so, but here's the thing, right? And
So he's sitting there by, look, open the window.
no, literally the guy, like the spider's like right here, and he's like, dude, the biggest spider. And I turn around, he's like right there staring at me. But he's like, good thing DJ wasn't in the bus, man. And so we get back to the shop, and DJ's like, I would have went out the door. Like he said, I would not have cared how fast we were going. I would have opened the door of the bus. I would have tucked and rolled out the door, and the guy would have had to drive the bus. Like it would have been like a swapping seats immediately. But I don't know why I brought that up. What were we talking about? But you needed to know that because it was very crazy today. I have no clue why. I'm sorry.
So
I totally just derailed the
No. So
conversation.
your friend scared petrified of spiders, and hopefully we didn't just show spiders.
Petrified of spiders.
Petrified.
Petrified.
He would have jumped out of the bus
Right.
out of self-preservation.
Correct.
He would not have cared about himself
Right.
at all,
Right.
just for the sake to get away from
That's right.
the spider.
That's right.
Why can't we do the same with sin?
Right. Right. Well, and how foolish would it have been to if the guy would have jumped out of the bus to blame me
For the spider.
for the spider
Because it was your bus.
because it was my bus,
Possession is 9/10.
right? Right. So what did you do? I jumped out of a bus. Why? Because of Skip. Right.
He had this bus, and there's a spider.
And so I had to jump out of the bus. But
Yeah.
because it was Skip's bus, therefore it was Skip's responsibility for my tragedy that occurred on East Avenue.
Exactly.
Anyway,
So apparently, your lovely wife Gary is a spider not lover.
hater, spider hater.
Well, they're these spiders. Okay, we've gone in Iraq.
Correct.
They
They're
have
real
these-
spiders.
They have spiders called camel spiders,
Correct. They're huge.
and I've seen one firsthand.
They're huge.
Yeah.
They're huge. They're
Yes.
dinner plate huge.
Yes.
Yeah, dinner plate
They'll
huge.
they'll jump on you from across the room.
What did I spell?
I don't know.
They're
Camel spiders.
yeah.
Yeah, that's them right there. Look at the one. Look at the one next to where they're holding it. No, second up top
There's
to the left.
two of them
right
together.
there. Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are absolutely huge.
Now the one in the bus was not that big. I'm just gonna say.
Skip's like, I might have jumped out.
Yeah. Yeah. I probably wouldn't have sat there so cool, calm, and collected. Like, God and I got this, even if there is a spider behind me. Donnie's a fan of the spiders, apparently.
Right on, Donnie.
We're going to show you another spider there, Donnie.
Oh, Donnie, we're going to show you this one. Donnie doesn't care. Donnie works with a torch all the time. He's probably thinking,
I got this.
I've got this. Spider come around me. The spider is getting torched. One of the questions while you're pulling that up, and I want to ask the audience, because I asked it last night at the gathering, and I asked it of a friend of mine last week at lunch. Why is it so easy, Channing, for us to sin? As the scriptures have said, we have been dead to sin, right? And we're alive in Christ. So and as it relates to Ananias, why was it so easy? Because we
had self.
We haven't reloaded.
Self was on the throne
it.
still.
That's it. Self was still there.
Yes.
So the question is, and this is a question that is posed all throughout the scriptures, if my life doesn't have the confession of Christ resonating through it,
Sure.
has my heart made that confession?
It'd be hard to say yes to that.
Right? Because Jesus himself said that if you continue in your sin, you do not know me.
Right. You belong to the Father. Your father, Satan.
That's right.
Sorry.
That's right. It says, choose this day whom you'll serve. You're either of your Father God in heaven or you're of Satan.
So you were talking about the one angle off,
1 degree.
1 degree tilt,
Yep.
right? And if we were shooting bows and arrows, right, 1 degree
Right.
at the launch, right, 5 feet away, not a problem,
We're still hitting the target.
right?
We might even still hit bullseye from 5 feet with a
Right.
1 degree tilt.
But that's something, we've referenced and talked about, just waking up every day.
Right.
And that's something that I think we do. I mean, Donnie's point even here, we need to get off the fence, but we need to make sure that degree's dialed in. That's something that today I'm going to potentially have. I'm going to put on that armor
Right.
and I'm going to be fighting today.
I-
And if I'm not accurate today, I'm not going to hit anything.
I think you said it 2 weeks ago. Through obedience, purify yourself. Through obedience. The 1 degree adjustment is through obedience.
Right.
We can almost fake 179 degrees. We can forcibly fake 179. It is the 1 degree that you cannot fake. And that 1 degree requires you to have skillfully prepared yourself to launch.
You talked about the 1 degree, or we'll call it Kentucky windage.
The who?
You aim closer to yourself, 1 degree off, you're still going to hit the mark.
Right.
But 1 degree off 1,000 yards, you're not even going to come close.
Nope. But you know what's going to happen? You're going to hurt somebody.
Exactly.
Yep.
Because you're not
Yep.
true.
That's
you're not
right.
where you're going.
That's right.
Yep.
We're told that we were frozen, so we went ahead and fixed that.
Oh,
Oh, okay. Awesome.
thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mel. Pat, for looking out. Sorry.
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom.
I saw ends and you said mom, and no, Jody, it's all of us. Are we back?
We're back.
Are we back? What happened?
The spider happened.
Oh, the spider happened.
Spider.
Let's don't show it.
Okay.
It's too creepy. It's kind of creepy because somebody may not like them.
Better now. Thank you, Jody.
Yeah, thank you, Jody.
Oh, happy birthday
Yeah.
too, by the way.
Yeah, happy birthday, Jody.
Feliz cumpleaños.
That was awesome.
Did he tell you this?
I know.
Isn't
He
that
did.
wild?
The next day was Jody's birthday,
I didn't even know.
and he didn't even know.
Didn't even know.
That's crazy.
Yep. 364 days off, and then the one. Well, actually, next day.
That's awesome. That's
cool.
awesome. Yep. All right. What else you got?
That's what I brought in.
That's it.
Sweet.
That's it.
Short, sweet.
I got something for Bunker after as it relates to your scripture.
Ooh.
Okay.
So maybe tune in. Maybe we'll record it.
Bunker After Hours.
Maybe
Bunker
we'll
after.
the bunker
Might
after.
Record it.
We might record it.
Like stalagmites, stalactites.
Stalagmites fall on you.
No.
What?
Stalactites hold tight to the ceiling. Stalagmites might grow to the ceiling.
I can never get those two
I remember
straight.
that backwards for how long?
Nope. All right, Channing. How do they follow us? Like somebody could be watching right now and think, I'd like to see a good train wreck about once a week.
Absolutely.
So how can how can I get notified that the train's coming?
I believe if every Monday at 6 p.m. you want to see the best train wreck that has the best content,
The best train
to
wreck.
strive to glorify Christ, yes, I think you can absolutely follow us on YouTube at bunkertv.com. Actually, if you just go straight to your browser, type in bunkertv.com and click, that'll actually redirect you right over to YouTube. And actually, right now we're going live to YouTube as well.
We've shortened your journey.
We have shortened the journey. We know there's a lot of crazy stuff on YouTube, and we want to get you right to the thing that we're hopefully just reaching people with God's word. And so if you're like, you know what, I don't really like YouTube, I'll just stick to Facebook. And maybe you're on YouTube seeing us, or however this works, you can just go to facebook.com and then bunkertv.letsgo, and you'll be able to find us there and follow, and we go live there as well.
Fantastic. But what if somebody wants to help get the word out about Bunker TV?
So there's, of course, the next step. And nobody's wearing one, but we have these phenomenal t-shirts.
What?
They are surprisingly soft, and I probably wear one at least 5 days out of every week. And
Yes.
it just says Hope Dealer on the front of it. And that's something that it's a phenomenal reminder of what we are to this world, that we're to be salt and light, and just to be that encouragement to show the love of Jesus Christ because we are his presence in this world. And that's something that we couldn't put all of that on a t-shirt, but we could just simplify it to just say a Hope Dealer and encourage those conversations to happen. And if you want one, we'd love to get one in your hands. And how that helps us out is they're $15 each, and basically $10 of that actually helps us boost this program to reach farther than we can just organically. So it helps us to be able to reach those who maybe need to hear the love of God and be able to hear this message. And then it potentially, we hope that it helps you be a salt and light into everywhere that you go.
So normally we reach hundreds.
Yes.
With those boosts, we reach thousands.
Thousands.
Yeah.
Thousands. And so that's why it's important. And again, we take all of the profits from those shirts and actually put it into that boost. Now, we do cover the cost of shipping as well. So if somebody says, hey, I want one, we will package it and send it to you. And we will actually do it quicker than we sent Jody's.
I wasn't going to say anything, but
Maybe.
No, we will. We will. We will. Jody waited patiently.
which is awesome.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. We appreciate that a ton.
Yeah.
Gary, your notes look like they have math on them.
There is math.
There is math in
There is
Gary's
math.
notes. I'm not sure that if are we allowed to bring math into the bunker? I mean, there are certain things
I'm
we
using
do not
numbers.
discuss.
What?
Oh.
You're leaving?
I will have no expertise in this.
no math.
Wow.
X equals 2.
X equals 2.
So,
Okay.
So we need to know that for the formula? Or?
no.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Well, take us down the trail,
All right.
and we may check out at the math, but
I don't really math around too much.
I think a lot of this mathers is what it does.
It matters greatly.
now here's the thing: if this sums up the rest of this conversation, we probably
Just call it now.
Yeah, you guys don't
Call it
subtract
a-
yourself from this. It's pretty much.
You know, the easiest way to divide a room is to bring up math. Now, if you're at a Star Trek convention, it can multiply the people around you, though.
There's division all over the troops.
Yeah, maybe. All right.
All right, so here we go. I want to start in Matthew 25:14, the parable of the
Start
talents.
in Matthew.
What?
You're starting in Matthew. Math.
I didn't even. That was so awesome. I didn't even think about that.
Wow, that is awesome.
Go to Matthew.
Let's start in Matthew. Okay, I love it.
Starting in verse 14, for it is just like a man about, this is Jesus speaking, by the way. It is just like a man about to go on a journey who called his own slaves and entrusted his possessions to them. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, each according to his own ability. Fair enough. And he went on his journey.
It's twice.
Immediately, the one who had received the 5 talents went and traded with them and gained 5 more talents. In the same manner, the one who had received the 2 talents gained 2 more. But he who received the 1 talent went away and dug a hole in the ground and hid the master's money. Okay. In the Strong's Concordance, I looked in the back. And in that, it kind of delineates how much money was given to these slaves.
Okay.
According to Strong's, a talent... Is that me? Okay. A talent valued at $1,000 an ounce of gold. 1 talent is worth over $1 million.
What?
According to Strong's.
1 talent.
1 talent.
Now, talents were made of gold?
Talents were made of gold.
What? And so that talent, at modern gold value, because that would be today's value of gold.
Correct.
About $1,000 an ounce.
It'd be 1.4
Because,
million.
yeah, because gold's above 1,200 now, isn't it? Yeah, okay.
So we'll just kind of round it down and say $1 million. So the one person was given $5 million. That's this many.
Can I throw the soggy blanket on the fire?
Sure.
Up until the 1970s, the price of gold was a standard and was set.
Okay.
And so gold was barely above $30 an ounce up until 1970.
So even though...
Right, but in today's math, it's 1.5 million.
If we say $30 back when
that's
in this story, that's
a huge deal.
It's big money.
Huge deal. Yes,
big money.
Yep.
So this guy had, we'll say, $5 million.
Okay.
And he went, and it took him. To be honest, I would say if you're trading and you're talking to this guy and you're talking to this person, whatever, and you're bartering up, and it's going to take you a while to get another $5 million. So you have $10 million to give back to the master when he comes back, and you have made another 5. Likewise, the guy who had 2, he bartered. He talked to the people in the market. He was buying. He was selling. He was doing all he can, and he made another 2 talents, another $2 million. So, in the time that the master was gone, however long it was, this one person doubled his money. The second person doubled his money. The third person
buried his money.
All right. Continuing on with the story here. Now, after a long time, the master of those slaves came and settled accounts with them. The one who had received the 5 talents came and brought 5 more talents, saying, "Master, you entrusted 5 talents to me. See, I have gained 5 more talents." His master said to him, "Well done, good and faithful slave. You were faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master."
Those are strong words.
Enter into my joy. Enter the joy of your master. Also, the one who had received the 2 talents came up and said, "Master, you entrusted 2 talents to me. See, I have gained 2 more talents." Okay. His master said to him, "Well done, good and faithful slave. You were faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master." Same thing, same scenario. You've done well with what I've given you.
Right.
Enter into my joy.
I don't think we want the next one.
And the one also who had received the 1 talent came up and said, "Master, I knew you were a hard man. Reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you scattered no seed, and I was afraid. And I went away and hid your talent in the ground. See, what you have is yours." But the master answered and said to him, "You wicked, lazy slave, you knew that I reap where I do not sow and gather where I scattered no seed. Then you ought to have put my money in the bank, and on my arrival, I would have received the money back with interest." Now, going back to the math, if the slave with a 1 talent had just gone to the bank, I'm going to put my $1 million in here. At today's rate, 0.04% return. If the master had gone a year and was gone a year, he would have made him $40,000 just by putting it in the bank. But yet he was so afraid that he was going to lose the master's money. No matter what he did, he just buried it in the ground and he hid it.
Fear drives us to inactivity.
He couldn't see past his own fear. He couldn't
Right.
see past what he could do for the master,
Right.
because he had seen what the master was,
Yeah.
that he was a hard man, that he still reaped where he did not sow.
Was it fear of loss, do you think, or do you think it was fear of the response if he had suffered a loss?
I think it was fear from the master,
Right.
because if he had even invested and lost the money,
Right.
would the master have admonished him as well, or would he have said, "You made a valiant attempt"? But
Right.
that's not this
Right.
parable.
He did something.
Right.
It was some.
It was something. Instead, he did absolutely zero.
So I remembered we did the math on this a while ago, and so before I just randomly just based it on what somebody else had said, I went and looked it up.
Okay.
But a denarii or denarius was a 1 day's work.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, he could have earned that in 1 day. He would have needed to work 6,000 days to earn 1 talent.
Wow.
10,000 days would be equal to 60 million denarii.
Wow.
Wow.
But yet the master gave him this money,
The master
to
gave him something
entrust-
precious.
entrusted him with this amount.
Precious.
Yes.
Precious.
Yes. One took care of it, nurtured it, grew that, doubled it.
True.
2, grew it, nurtured it, cared for it. 3rd, squandered it.
Because right, I think it's important that a talent is the greatest measurement value monetarily they had.
Yes.
There wasn't anything higher.
Really?
Exactly.
So he gave them.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, just learn.
It's in the Strongs too.
just learn.
It was the greatest unit of value.
Yes. Money wise.
Wow. Okay.
So he gave them the best.
Yes. Take care of this.
There's so much in that parable.
Right.
There is so much in that parable.
Right.
Like, we could have an entire episode just on that parable.
Exactly.
The value of what was entrusted.
The value of what the master is asking this person to take care of for him, because I won't be here to take care of it myself.
But even the trust of the master to give the servant that money.
Okay. So what about this little wrinkle? Ready? Did the servants do anything?
In what regard?
I'm just asking.
did the servants do anything to earn this?
No, did the servants do anything? Because as we discussed a few episodes back, we talk about, remember we were talking about, well, we don't do anything, right?
Okay.
And we talked about, no, we do, right?
Right.
And so in this illustration,
Yes.
the servants, the slaves, had to go and do something.
Right.
Yes.
They did it in the power and the appointment of the master,
Yes.
but they still physically made a choice of what to do and how to interact
Yes.
with what they were entrusted with.
Yes.
And we're called to do the same thing. But yet, by our lack of involvement, we become the one with the single talent.
Exactly.
And we do nothing. And then we just return with the one talent. And we go, look at the shiny coin I still got.
Yep.
I keep it safe.
Yep.
I kept it safe. And God's like, I didn't give you this to keep it safe.
Exactly.
I gave you this because it was precious and it was of high value.
Yes.
And because of its preciousness and its high value and its rarity, it should have attracted more.
Just by putting it in a safe place, not in the ground, because the ground is not a safe place, but a place of like a bunker
Right.
where you know it's there, you know that people are going to care for it for you and return some interest.
Right.
Because they're going to use your money to make other money. They're going to
Right.
get their money. You're going to get money.
Right. And I believe that there is an expectation of obedience with what God has entrusted us to do, not for our glorification,
Yes.
but to return more back to Him, so that He says those things, well done.
Yes. And in the instance of talents, and I believe that relates to what God has given us today, our abilities
Sure.
and the talents that He has asked us to care for, because He's given them to us.
Right.
God has given some to be teachers. God has given some to be musicians. What do we do with the talents that God has given us
For Him,
for Him?
not for us.
Do we sit there? Okay, I can play the drums. I'm not gonna practice though.
You play the drums?
I'm just gonna
Okay.
I play the drums. I'm just gonna put that on the shelf here.
Right.
I play the drums.
Right.
Drums are right here.
But you're not a drummer till you swing a stick.
I'm not gonna practice.
You're not a drummer till you swing a stick.
You're right. I'm gonna listen. No, I'm not gonna listen. I'm going to hide what God has given me over here.
Right.
And I'm not going to hone it. I'm not going to develop that. I'm not going to do anything with it. And God's going to look at me and said, "What did you do with the talents that I gave you?"
Yep.
And I'm going to stand before God. I'm going to be like, "God, here's the talent. It's right here on the shelf. Where are you wanted? You gave it to me. I'm not going to do anything with it because you gave it to me. I don't want to lose it. But I'm giving it back to you because you wanted me to show you, and here it is." And God's going to be like, "What? You didn't use that for my kingdom? You didn't develop more? You didn't learn more about the craft that I gave you?" Mm-hmm. And I'm going to be like, "But God, it's yours. I kept it for you. It's good."
Right, because you got to that point in learning an instrument
Yeah.
where you're frustrated.
Yes.
And you're doing something, and you're like, "Man, I want to get this. I want to get this. I want to get this."
Yes.
And it's like, if you play an instrument, you've gotten to
Yes.
before.
Yes.
You have walked out of the room not pleased.
True.
But then you come back and you figure it out and it clicks.
Yes.
And you get this like
Yes.
ecstatic feeling because it made sense.
Exactly.
And you were doing what you were supposed to be doing.
Yes.
Same applies to using our talents and abilities for God.
Exactly.
That's something that it can feel, right? If we're bottling that up, I guarantee God's still like, "Hey, by the way, big top shelf. That thing I put there, I don't want you just to polish it every now and then."
Yeah.
Right.
Don't bury it. Don't keep it over there. Use it. Learn. Do more with it than what I've just given you. This little.
I can play a drum too. Dink.
I can't.
That's it. That's it. Dink. That's all I got.
There's a little cowbell in there.
Ding, 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 ding.
I can't even play the cowbell. I'm just saying.
That's where it's
Not
happening.
one of my talents.
No, that's
Not one of my
happening.
talents.
We're making a video and you're playing a cowbell in it.
That's awesome.
Okay, sure. I'll try. We're gonna
that's
have
awesome.
lots of editing.
So, what I wanted to say, and the last line, that there's something else that I also wrote in there, but I'm going to get to my last line here, is the things that are hidden and buried and not shown. When we get to heaven, is it just good enough just to get in the door? I mean, for real.
Oh, that was my feet. My shoes are melting. I was close.
Yeah. Thanks God for the fire extinguisher. Whoosh, good. Is it good enough just to get in the door? Heaven forbid that we have nothing to give God when we go in, and everybody else has got wonderful things that God had given them, and they developed and they used their talents and they made more for God, and they're throwing these things at God's feet, and you're just walking in like, woohoo, man, whew, barely got in, got a little singed, but I'm good.
Right.
Are we gonna barely get in?
I don't want to barely get in.
But see, barely getting in is not biblical.
Yeah, are we going?
either
the
you-
door's gonna shut, and we hear the like like the little action music playing, and we're gonna like squeak through, and God's like, "Oh, you snuck in." No,
You're either there or you're not there.
exactly. Yeah,
You're either there or you're not there.
But
And you shouldn't get there, as the old illustration, I'm going to get there smelling like smoke.
no.
Like that.
but-
you know, like,
But heaven forbid that I get there and I have nothing to
Right.
give God.
well, if you do, he's going to have some words for you.
Oh, he's going to have some
there's
words.
that other.
I know that.
There's that other judgment that comes later.
Right. Right.
Because he's going to bring back, see this dude that you passed by on the street and you didn't talk to him. You see this person that you were over here, getting a burger and you didn't tell them how much that I love them. You didn't try and minister to them. Here's that angel that I put in your way that you didn't give a ride to.
And the reason why sharing God's love is so important, it is the love of God that brings a man unto repentance. Right?
Right.
It's the law of God that reckons that we're sinners.
Right.
Right? It's the righteous wrath of God's judgment which determines ultimately our destination. It is the love of God that brings us to repentance. That's why we have to understand we understand the law, not because we're bound by it, but that we're bound to grace.
Right.
But we have to understand it. We just spent an hour and a half last night in Romans 6, 7, and 8, right? To get a grasp of the law and how it affected Paul, right?
Exactly.
And so we have to understand the law, but it's not the end,
No.
right? Then there's grace. And grace is only experienced by knowing the love of God.
Right.
That's why it's key that we share the love of God with those that we encounter. Not the goodness of man, not the interests of me, none of that.
Sure.
But the love of God, because it's, as the scriptures say, it's the love of God that brings all men unto repentance. Now, love is truth, right?
Yes.
Truth doesn't always feel good. Love may not always feel good.
Spanking your kid.
Well, and even more so, what's we divvy punishment sometimes unrighteously, right?
Right.
I remember when I was a kid, one of my cousins ran out in the street.
Okay.
Nothing happened,
All right.
right? Neighbor kid run out in the street. Nothing happened.
Skip runs out in the street.
No, one of the neighborhood kids actually ran out in the street, got hit by a car.
No.
But there was no scolding a child for running into the road is probably one of the greatest expressions of love and protection.
Right.
But to think, oh, I don't need to do that because that's harsh, or I don't need to do that because it's whatever.
Right.
And so realize that sometimes God's words of correction are, Skip, don't run out in the road.
Love is accountable.
But God, I want to go out in the road.
Yeah. Yeah.
Skip, don't go out in the road.
Yep.
You talked about going, through Acts 6, 7, and 8.
Right.
In the
Romans 6.
Romans.
Oh man.
Oh.
Because I just did it in Acts. The whole thing. It says, why is 6 scared of 7? Because 7, 8, 9.
Oh, there you go.
So I went to Acts 9, and it's the Damascus Road,
Oh, right. Which we talked about.
which we talked about.
Yeah.
But that was a expression of love.
That's right.
But he got slapped with blindness.
Right.
It's like, hey, I love you. You can't see anymore.
Well,
But I'm just right. We know this.
Yeah.
slapped with blindness, I think may carry a connotation that
I was just, okay.
I know, but I'm just
your
but,
analogy.
but the only reason why I say that is there are people who believe that God goes around slapping people with things.
No.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
I got you.
And so Paul losing his sight for a moment, it wasn't forever.
No, but it was, a decent amount of time.
Well, but it wasn't like, you know what I'm saying? I
Right.
mean, it was a very small portion of his existence.
life, yes.
Right. It wasn't like you're blind.
Right.
It was, if anything, to take his eyes off where he was going to redirect where he needed to go.
In that correction.
Right.
Right. In that time of don't go this way.
Right.
And in the same way, don't go into the street.
But sometimes we think that when things happen that feel like harm, God is doing it to chasten us.
Right.
Right. And we think that, you know, you and I discussed this on the disc golf course.
Yeah.
You know, it goes back to the whole lamb, right? God breaking our leg to fix us and put us back in the pen. You know what I'm saying? And that is a unbiblical view of God. You know what I'm saying?
But God also quickens us with fire to purify ourselves. Like with gold, you purify gold by heating it up and getting all the nastiness off the top.
Sure.
We are also purified by correction from God.
Absolutely. So was there more to 9 and Acts 9?
No, I just
'Cause
like
7, 8, 9.
first of all, my brain went on this tangent because of a 6, 7, 8.
Oh, right. Because 7, 8, 9. Yeah.
So like, okay, what's a 9? And then I just thought it was unique, and then it did play to that
9 was
correction.
full.
Right.
9 was full.
So you gave 9 was full.
9 had chicken fingers.
Wait, 7 was full.
No, 7, 8. Oh, that's right. 7 was full.
7 was full.
9 was the chicken fingers.
Spicy.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So you said that was your last line, but you had
That was my
something
last
else.
line. But there's something else, and we had talked about this as well. Is it easier to lie or to tell the truth?
It's easier to lie.
Why?
I mean, I'm not saying it should be,
But
but I'm
No,
just.
but why is it? Because the truth stands on its own. A lie, you have to lie
because
and lie
because
and
the
lie.
truth, because I'm not telling you. This is not me telling you how we should be. This is me trying to explain why we are the way we are.
Okay.
Right. Before we tell the truth, we have already determined the person's response to the truth before we speak it. And so if I'm going to say the truth, I've now already prepared myself that Gary's not going to like the truth.
Okay.
And when I tell him this, he's probably going to do X, Y, Z. Okay. Now, when he does X, Y, and Z, it's going to require me to do X subset 1, X subset 2, X subset, right? I'm going to have to do all these things in response.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is going to create some additional labor on me. Okay. Not to mention he might be upset with me in the process, and he might then try to scrutinize me based on his interpretation of the scriptures to tell me, don't be a plank-eyed saint, leave me alone. Who are you to judge? You know, all the things that we have, you know, he who's without sin cast the first stone, you know, because we've got those loaded,
Matthew
ready.
7.
We've got those loaded to fire, right?
Matthew.
And so if the question required a yes or no, and yes was the truth, and I went through this whole litany, but no just moves me on to the next thing, I just say no. I was just having a discussion on the way over here with a gentleman, and I just said to him, I said, why didn't you say something? And he's like, well, you know, emotionally the time wasn't right. Maybe timing the time wasn't right. All of these things. And I said, well, the problem with this is, unfortunately, we never end up cycling back around to have that truth discussion.
Right.
So the person that we were engaged in a discussion ends up meandering down that path with the belief that what they said, did, or perceived is true.
Yeah.
Because no one had a discussion with them.
Right.
Okay.
So interestingly enough, to give you a more tangible example based on somebody on the panel, not picking, right? Okay. We were having a discussion about something that we saw on social media, right? And we hashed out pretty detailed the fact that what was said on social media was wrong, right?
Okay.
Channing incidentally runs into the person.
Right.
And I'm like, did y'all have the talk? No. And he said no. I said, why not? And he's like,
I don't know this person.
but here's the thing. Like, right, that's what I'm saying. Like, and I'm not
Right.
but that's exactly what we do. Because in our minds, because it was the same thing that the guy who was having the discussion with me today, right?
Yeah.
There was this component of what he didn't know on the back end of whatever it was, right? I don't know where he is biblically. I don't know where he is emotionally. I don't know where he is physically. I don't really even know him all that well.
But the truth should stand on its own. You can still be mad. I'm telling you, God will tell you no, and you can be mad at God, and God knows He's got big shoulders. He can take your anger, but you've got to come back to God and talk to God.
I understand, and I truly believe that the truth is the truth, regardless. Right?
The truth will come out.
Because my thought is, and what I did was to kind of bring context to the gentleman that I was speaking to earlier, was I tried to make it about work, right? Because things get very clear when we're talking about work, right? And so if I were to say to you, okay, back when you were in the military,
okay,
right, and you were working in communications,
okay,
right? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So let's say some person, some lower or even higher ranking person within the military came up to you and said something to you as it related to your job doing communications that was wrong.
Right. Okay.
Would you have just been like, oh, I don't want to deal with this today, so I'm just going to let him believe a lie that if he pushes the red button, he's going to be able to communicate to headquarters? Right? You wouldn't. You'd be like, okay, Tom, listen.
Don't hit the red button.
Don't hit the red button. Because if you hit the red button, and he'd be like, Gary, whatever, man. You don't know what you're talking about, man. I'm just, whatever. And he walks off. Well, now when he goes to press that button, he now has to consider what you said.
Exactly.
He has to consider what was said in that moment.
Yes.
And that's what I think the reason why we're called to be truth tellers is, even in the midst of someone's deception, if we at least just present the truth, then they have to consider it. Mm-hmm. You're not, because the comment was even made earlier today, well, I didn't think it was a good time to preach to him. Well, I'm not saying preach. Presenting truth and preaching are two totally different things, but our mind goes there because, you know what I'm saying? If you say, hey, Skip, this Dasani water tastes like bubble gum. And I'm like, no, it doesn't.
No.
Right? But the next time I crack the lid, I'm going to think about it. Right? The thought is going to cross my mind. And so if I'm in deception and you present to me truth, even if you let me process the truth on my own, I still have to consider it.
I like that.
You know what I'm saying?
I do.
And so if someone is, so for instance, if someone says, well, God did this, right? And what the person is saying is not within God's character. Mm. And I just say, no, I don't think he did. Mm. What did I say that was so offensive? What did I say? Now what has to happen is when this guy is reckoning and wrestling with these emotions based on what he's pinned the tail on God, right? He now has to consider for a moment that someone objected to that line of thinking.
And I don't think that we as a person like when people object or go against what we have said.
Right.
Or what we believe.
Because by the time you're expressing it, you've almost you've made the conclusion.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're just looking for that, like, oh, yeah, attaboy.
Well done, Skip.
Yeah, that Dasani does taste like bubblegum.
Yeah, I taste it too, right? You kind of look for that, like, cooperation, I guess. But that's something that, to have that, like, oh, like rubbing the cat hair the wrong way.
Right.
They're not going to react well. But it, of course, can be to benefit.
Oh, I'm trying it. I'm trying it when I get home.
But again, I think that we've already predetermined their response. So in predetermining their response,
that's how we either go yay or nay. I'm going to tell the truth or I'm going to tell a lie.
Right.
Or even in the instance of predetermining, right, to have a conversation with somebody, right? They're not going to receive this.
Yeah, I had a conversation with a guy one time, and I knew that what I was telling him was the truth. And I knew that he wasn't going to like it. I went as far as to tell him,
you're not going to like this.
No. I told him afterwards. Like, I told him the truth.
Right.
And then I told him, I was like, I realize you're not going to receive, you did not receive this well. I realized going in, like, I had the thought with myself before I even opened this up. You realize there is no value for me if anything, there is actually a detriment to me to even bring this up.
Right.
That's how I hope you understand that I'm saying this out of honesty. Because you understand by me even having this conversation with you, I'm hurting myself.
Potentially greatly.
And he did the exact same thing. I knew what he was going to do. But now I know he has to consider it. And so maybe in the next interaction that he has,
He's going to be like, Skip.
he's got to consider it.
Yeah.
And then he finds out for himself where truth is. And he either has to dispel what was said or move on. And in some cases, you can be invested in truth and people will bring the lie into your life. And then the lies can test the truth.
Yes. That's big. So anyway, that was my question.
So is it easier to tell a lie or tell the truth? What do you think?
In my life now, it's easier to tell the truth
Okay.
because I don't have to cover up the truth.
Right.
And I don't have to retell another truth to cover up the first truth.
I had a gentleman one time. I told him the truth. And those of you who know the story of my past, me and the truth, we weren't very good friends. We didn't hang out together much at all in my younger days, right? But I reached a point in my life where I just said, hey, I'm going to be honest, right? And so I was having this discussion with this guy, and he's like, why hasn't anyone ever told me this? So this is a believer
Okay.
in a bubble full of believers that says to me, why hasn't anyone told me this?
Right.
Why is that so crazy? Like have we put up such a facade that we've made ourselves uncorrectable?
I think so.
Right.
I think in the interaction between friends, you don't want to put a detriment to the friendship.
Don't want to rock the boat.
Nope.
Friendship and finances. Because if somebody's financially leveraged against you, they may not be transparent either.
Okay.
Your boss says, hey, so do you think this is a good idea? And you're like, yeah, I love it, boss.
Yeah, boss.
That's a great idea.
Great. Yes. Yes,
That's a
boss.
great
Yes,
idea.
boss. Yes. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And then it tanks. It's like, well, you said.
That was a great idea, boss. Great idea. What's the next big idea you got? Good job.
Good job, boss.
Good job. And we cheer people onto their demise. We do.
Yeah. Yes.
But
Watch this happen.
but for a moment, if we Acts 4, right? If we're in community,
What are we asking for?
if we're in community, we're in one mind and of one accord,
Yes.
right? We've rid ourselves of all of our personal possessions for the benefit of everyone in the community.
Wow.
Right.
Truth prevails. Because if somebody's acting in a way outside of truth, I'm just as invested in it as everyone else in the community to offer truth and insight. Because in that moment, the truth is of a benefit to the community, and the community is the goal.
Right. Everybody to be united.
And if we aren't unified at the community level, then we'll be divided at the individual level, and then divided at the individual level. We don't have to seek the truth.
Exactly. We in community where we're united, we're all of one plane.
That's right. There's nobody greater. And I had this discussion about community with someone before that they could not wrap their brain around someone being better at something than someone else. Hence, they should be rewarded at a higher level. It was almost like, so let's say that your community required people to go and hunt to provide food, right?
Sure.
In his mind, he was like, well, the guy who hunts the best should be rewarded more. But see, the guy who hunts the best in a community like that doesn't want to be rewarded more. He's just going out to do what he can do for the betterment of the community.
Right. Well, because while he's hunting, somebody else can be, preparing soup, or
maybe
they can be taking care of other things in the house, and all of these things can be happening simultaneously.
That's right.
Because
Maybe-
everybody's not, it's hunt time for
Yep.
me. Oh, it's clean time. Oh, it's this. It can
maybe-
be all be getting done.
Maybe he's the best hunter, but he's not the best tracker.
Right.
And so the best tracker doesn't go, you can't do nothing without me. I find them better than you do.
Right.
And then the guy goes, but you couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. So you find it, but what you going to do with it? You ain't taking it back to the hut. Right? That's our culture today.
Right.
Heckling.
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 Yes. That's our culture today.
It is. Our culture is to elevate ourselves by bringing somebody else down.
And here's the thing. I love that Gary plays the drums. And I love that Channing plays guitar.
Sometimes. When
And
he remembers.
And I don't have to endeavor to do either of them because both of you do it.
Right.
I don't it doesn't keep me up at night trying to figure out how to play the guitar or play the drums, because I know if I need somebody to play the guitar or I need somebody to play the drums, I've got somebody who I can call.
Right.
Right. Community.
I just want a community that people don't call a cult.
And we had talked about this as well. First century church.
If you had that representation, Acts 4, today, people would be like,
There's a cult.
Absolutely.
They'd use another word too, but we won't go there. We're good. We've already diverted away from this conversation here in the bunker, so we're going to keep doing that.
Oh, this train has gone off the rails.
So, are you serious?
Huh? Oh. Okay. Yeah.
And I'm out. Boot.
Even twice this episode.
Yeah, sorry. I hope you muted that, by the way.
I
No, I'm just
did.
kidding. Okay.
Wow.
So
So
I muted Gary's mic.
that was me. Did he really? Hello. X equals 2. That was my math in Matthew.
All right, guys. You got anything else, fellas?
Oh, man, I'm good. That was, oh, man. Revelation today. Revelation. I like it. Today was good. Don't hide your talent in the dirt.
Do not hide your talent. And here's the thing. No, it's not yours.
No, it's not.
Do not hide God's talent.
And just give him back. Here's what you have.
Right.
Don't hide God's talent.
Yes.
Take God's talent, double it.
And don't hold back.
And don't hold back. Don't hold back.
Boom. 7, 8, 9.
7, 8, 9, apparently. So, and remind yourself of this all week. It's the love of God that brings all men to repentance. It's His love.
Amen.
Go deal some hope this week.
Right on.
Go share God's love with someone. But first, before you do that, you need to know that God loves you.
He does.
He loves you and adores you.
100%.
And because He's got enough love to share with everyone around you, go share His love with someone that doesn't know about His love. I challenge you. Be radical in your faith and go tell everybody that God loves them.
Amen.
We'll see you guys next week.